She says, so many people talk about not eating gluten and dairy. Can you explain how does the gluten and dairy test work for food allergies? Do you recommend for your clients that don't feel good eating them? Where can I take the test? Okay, so gluten and dairy are like a whole rabbit hole that I'm not going to go down because that's not actually your question, Fran. I'm just going to give you 20 seconds about this. I've mentioned so many times that I don't eat gluten at all, haven't eaten gluten for many years, and that makes me feel a lot better. I have had the intolerance tests that I'm about to talk to you about that show gluten intolerance for myself. I've had a genetic test, which I actually don't recommend for most people. It's kind of like, above and beyond what you would really want to do. And that confirmed that gluten was not my friend, and I just know that gluten doesn't make me feel good, even though I don't have celiac disease. Gluten is inflammatory for up to 70% of the population in some way. So this does not mean, oh, I eat a piece of bread and I'm vomiting. It may even mean that you eat bread 3 meals a day, every single day, and you think you feel fine. However, you don't know that you feel fine until you take that out for at least 10 days, ideally 2 weeks, and then you reintroduce it. In my experience with my clients, almost everyone, probably the statistic is about accurate in my experience, 70% of people feel not so good once they reintroduce gluten. And so I think it's worth a try for everyone. Now, Fran's question says, do you recommend the testing for your clients that don't feel good eating them? I'm doing a little play on words here, but hear me out. If you don't feel good eating them, you don't need a test. Right? And I'm selling you the test. It's part of my practice. I profit on the test. So it would be in my interest to tell you, yes, absolutely take the test. But no, if you already know that you don't feel good without it, then why are you agonizing yourself saying, oh, should I have it? Should I not? Whatever. If it makes you feel bad, it's so not worth it. And trust me, I know. I miss pizza. Whenever my husband orders pizza, it smells so good. I don't really miss bread or pasta. Personally, that's not my thing. But there are just gluten out, like cookies, cakes, things like that. That's like good stuff, right? So every time I see it, I'm like, that looks good. But really, it's fleeting because I know that would taste good for 30 seconds. It would make me feel bad for literally a couple days. I would feel bloated afterwards, and that's not worth it for me. I said I wasn't going to go down my rabbit hole, and I have no idea where I am on this winding path, so I'm going to try to reel myself back in here. But thank you guys for dealing with me. Oh, my point was, if you don't feel good, don't eat it, right? Don't eat it. Now, she does ask, can you explain how the different tests work for food allergies? Out of my practice, I do not do a food allergy test. Allergies and intolerances are two very different things, and I'll post a blog post that I wrote in the comments with more details on this. Food allergies happen every single time you eat a food. They happen immediately, within 60 minutes of when you eat the food, and it's generally much more pointed reaction. So you might drink milk and you physically vomit. You might have cantaloupe and your mouth itches, or you develop a rash or something like that. It's a very acute reaction versus an intolerance. Not only does it not happen every time you eat it, which makes it very hard to diagnose on your own, but it shows up to 48 hours after the consumption of the food, and it's much more of a dull reaction. So intolerances are much more things like bloating, constipation, diarrhea, gassiness, arthritis, migraines, fatigue, just general like blah feeling, inability to lose weight, more PMS symptoms, things like that are all related to food intolerances. So for an allergy test, you need to go to a doctor, a like allergist. I don't know what the official doctor name for an allergist is, but I call them an allergist. They're an MD who specializes in allergies, right? For intolerance testing, you can come to me. And then within intolerance testing, there are a lot of variations. I recommend most people who are just kind of doing it, they don't feel bad, they just are curious about this stuff. You can start with an IgG test, which I use the Everlywell test out of my practice. Everlywell test has more false positives and more false negatives than a more high-level specific test, but it's a more affordable price point for most people. It's $199 for 96 foods, and those are the most common 96 foods. That will give you kind of a starting place. Oh, I never would have known cucumbers, which are one of my intolerances, are not good for my body. When I started this journey with intolerances in 2013, I was certain that oranges, spinach, almonds, and dairy were not good for myself personally, and I went to several GI doctors and said those four things, and they were like, you are not so. And then finally, someone suggested doing a food intolerance test, and guess what? Those four things, oranges, almonds, spinach, and dairy, were my top intolerances. So there really is, if you feel like something's intolerant or you're intolerant to something, there really is science behind it. Anyway, the IgG test is the base level. The IgA test, which I run ALCAT, I'm an ALCAT practitioner, so I don't draw your blood, thank goodness. You don't want me drawing your blood. But I work with a team of mobile phlebotomists who then come to you, draw your blood wherever you are in the country, and then I am the partner with the lab. So the lab sends the results to me. I help you interpret the results. That's like the gold standard food intolerance test. This one is somewhere, depending on the foods you include, between $300 and $1,000. So this is really if you're feeling like significant GI distress, arthritis, something like that, and you just can't figure out what's causing it, you're probably not going to drop $1,000 if you're not feeling significant pain. So I think, Fran, that hopefully answers the question. Big difference between allergies and intolerances. I highly recommend almost everyone take out gluten and dairy for a period of 2 weeks just to try, and then contact me if you want the test. Oh, one more point on taking out gluten. So a lot of people are like, man, don't take out gluten. This is ridiculous, whatever. Think about what things gluten is in. Bread, pasta, candy, cookie, some candy, cookies, cake, cupcakes, muffins, cinnamon rolls, pastries. Are these things healthy anyway? No. Do I have a problem with you having a treat every once in a while? Certainly no. I have chocolate. You know, I said I only have salt within arm's reach, but guess what? I also have chocolate within arm's reach. I totally believe in not eating 100% vegetables all the time, every single day. But all those things you're tricking yourself if you think that that's healthy anyway. So when you're getting gluten-free products like gluten-free cookies, cupcakes, muffins, whatever, it's still not a health food. Just because it says gluten-free on it, they have to add in a lot of extra sugar often, a lot of salt, preservatives, stuff like that, and it's still a refined flour. So don't trick yourself just by thinking it's gluten-free so I can have it.